Namaste. And welcome to this Asana Video Manual. My name is Ki McGraw.
And my name is Bob Smith.
And we are thrilled to bring to you this particular video series that's based on our Asana Photo Manual. Enjoy. Namaste. And welcome back. As we focus next in this Asana Video Manual on our seated postural practice. We're going to start off through the salutation to the moon.
Shift to the moon salutation.
As we do, take your legs a leg distance apart, side to side. With your hands on your hips, keep the pelvis squared forward. As you rotate your right leg open to the right. Hinging in the right hip, shift both sides of the pelvis to the left heel. And breathing as you're reaching through, working in the arm variation that's just right for you today, based on your own experience from practicing with us before. And one more breath here. Now as you release from Uddiyana Trikonasana, let's shift into Uddiyana Parsvakonasana by lunging into your right knee, sliding your left leg a little farther back, hinging in that right hip, still sending both sides of the pelvis to the left heel. Right arm can develop anywhere along that right leg in a traditional arm position, with left arm reaching up and overhead, or any of the other arm variations that we've already described. And one more breath here. Now as you release from the position, pivot on your left foot. In doing so, lift your left heel, bending your left knee. Draw your way all the way back up into warrior as we just practiced a moment ago in our sun salutation, Virabhadrasana 2. One more breath. As you release, allow yourself to deepen into this crescent position with the left knee on the ground. Left hand can come behind the left hip as you turn and look back left. Further variations, as described previously, are also welcome, including this one in which the right arm can reach overhead and left arm continues to reach along that left leg. One more breath. As you release, shift your way back into three-limbed forward bend, Triangulakaika Pada Paschimottanasana, hinging at the hips as you're folding forward, neutral through the spine. If this is challenging for your left knee, you might consider this further variation with the left foot to the inner right thigh. Left knee can open to the left. We'll be studying this variation today in our seated postures just a bit. This is Mahamudra. One more breath. As you release, draw your way back and up to neutral. This foundation of Mahamudra is what's just right for our half circle posture, with your left hand by your left hip. Press onto it as well as left knee and right foot. Tracing a half circle for which the posture is named. The eye gaze is down towards your left hand. And one more breath here. Now as you release from the posture, we're going to retrace our steps. So as you come on back down, initially allow yourself to hinge at the hips and fold forward again in your forward bend. Doing so, you might continue to keep Mahamudra with the left knee opening to the left. And if you're perfectly comfortable instead in this variation of your three-limb forward bend, you might come into that. In either forward bend, the spinal length is maintained, and as such, one more breath here. And when you release from the position, draw your way up onto the right foot and the left knee for rotated crescent with the left elbow crossing right thigh. Prayer position to lift as you turn and look to the right. And one more breath. As you release, untwist, and with that left foot hooked under, lift up your left knee, and reaching overhead in Virabhadrasana 2. From this foundation, let's rotate extended side angle. Left elbow crossing that right thigh again. And with the prayer position, we're lifting as we're twisting to the right. And one more breath here. Now as you release, straighten through your right knee and draw your left leg in a little closer. Pyramid is the base of the rotated triangle, and as such maintain the long, relatively straight lines of the pose. Left hand can stay anywhere that has supported the spinal length in maintaining neutral as you turn and look towards your outstretched right hand. And breathing as you're reaching through, reaching upward and looking upward towards the ceiling. And as you're able, release and draw your way back through center and into your forward restful position.
shift around in the forward restful position, and then we'll come up and do the second side. Come to vertical, and we'll open the left foot, folding into that left hip joint. At first the right hip goes just slightly forward. Couple breaths, inhale. Exhale, find the core support, and then the movement through into the arms and the neck. One more, inhale. And exhale, and reach through the triangle. Finish. Back out a little, bend the left leg. Widen your foot base by a little. Left hand could go down or up here. Inhale, then the right arm, you feed it through. Exhale, stretch to that right side. Reach through, turn back right. And one more, inhale. Exhale, pelvis aims towards the right foot, the lower ribs out, away from there, and turn back right. And release. Turn into warrior. And just one breath here. Exhale, settle the pelvis, lift, be a warrior. And then down, the right knee's going to come down. Quadricep stretch, you're pushing off the left thigh with your hand or your forearm. Right hand lands along that right hamstring, maybe to the knee or even to the calf for the loose people. And one more breath. Exhale, settle a little lower, looking back, and release. Come back. If sitting on the right foot works for you, it doesn't upset the knee, that is one good position. Or, as Ki said, there's the Maha Mudra position here. In either case, it's a forward bend over the left leg. Your chest is turning slightly towards the left knee. And a couple more breaths. We're trying to lengthen the low back so the pelvis tips back, the lower ribs reach out. Obviously, it's a hamstring stretch. And finish. And then if you're sitting on the foot, you're going to bring the foot to the inner left thigh. Right hand's coming down, the half circle pose. Up onto the right knee. And sometimes on the fingertips of the right hand can help. The sacrum settles down, the lower ribs pull back left. You could look down or up or back and forth. And one more. Open that left low rib cage, turn back left, and then release, and we'll come down. And just make a graceful transition into the forward bend again. You choose the leg position that works for you. And 3 breaths. Exhale. The pelvis tips back, low ribs reach out. We reach through that left hamstring. Certainly you could have a strap. And one more. Inhale. And exhale and reach through. Hold your out just for a moment. Go a little further through. And then finish. The right knee's going to swing back. And we're going to cross into 2 positions. Come across with your right elbow. Right shoulder blade down the back. And one exhale, reach through. And release. Come out of the twist. Hook under with your toes. Into warrior. One exhale, settle, lift, be a warrior. Then extended side angle crossed over. Right elbow comes across. We're stabilizing the right side as we turn left. So the right inner leg, you reach back through it, right shoulder blade down, and then you turn. One more. Pulse it through, spread it through, and release this position. Hands down, the back leg in, or the front foot back. The pyramid for a breath. And then the rotated triangle. Right hand could land somewhere to the inside of the foot or outside. And a couple exhales. Open through the left hamstring. Keep the balance of the pose. And one more inhale. And exhale and reach around through and release it. And we'll come into just a forward bend, easing out the warm-up that we have here.
Now in doing so, allow yourself just a moment to release through one side of the body at a time. Walk your two hands over to your right foot. Head can come down towards your right knee, lengthening and opening through the left side of the waistline. And one more breath. As you release, come on back through center and change it up to your second side. Two hands over to the left foot or ankle, and the head down towards that left knee, feeling the opening through the right side of the waistline. And one more breath here. As you release, come on back through center and draw your way all the way back and up into your standing neutral position. Having warmed up the body, let's ground a bit. Inhale, expand the arms to the side body. And exhale, collect your energy. Bring it back home again. Twice again like this. Inhale to expand and open. And exhale, reground and recenter. And once again, inhaling. And exhaling. Now, having opened the bodies in these ways and warming things up a bit, we're going to shift into one particular practice to set you up for your best experience in our seated postures. This is a knee burrito. That's what we like to refer to it as affectionately. In doing so, we're going to roll up a mat, perhaps one of the ones you were practicing on, and if you have an extra, using that. The flatter and the firmer the mat, like this one, perhaps the more sensation you're about to experience. You'll come into a kneeling position, and then with it, place the rolled mat behind your knees. Shift your hips back onto the heels, and in doing so, we're compressing the posterior leg. And in doing so, this stimulates the Golgi tendon organs of the leg muscles, and in doing so, they're more likely to be happy to stretch. You place the arms overhead, you're giving a little bit more of your body weight into the experience of releasing. And just one more breath here. Now often, much of our tension in the back leg is actually through the foot and the calf. As such, we're going to shift it into a second experience of the knee burrito. This time, allow yourself to bend the knees and turn the toes underneath you so that your heels are up. And with it then, shift back yet again, and you'll feel that stretch through the foot sole as well as the calf. As you're able to reach those arms overhead, giving your body weight to the experience of compressing on that rolled mat. Doing so in such a way that you're helping to open the body for our forward bending from a seated position. And one more breath here. And when you release from the posture, we'll come on back. And as we do, I'll have you switch into a seated posture. Next one. And this being seated Dandasana. Come on in. When you're in seated Dandasana, your legs are straight forward. And the spinal length is maintained, growing upward through to the crown of the head. And in doing so, we've been using this as a base position, often in our earlier sequences, and as such, just feel yourself familiar here with that long and neutral spine. Keeping it as now we isolate into Mahamudra, with the left foot to the inner right thigh, and right leg straight forward. We'll hinge at the hips and fold. In doing so, still maintain the staff or the danda of the back, maintaining it in its neutral alignment as we're breathing and reaching through, opening through the right hamstring. Now, as Bob had mentioned before, if you needed to use a strap around your foot, you'd of course be welcome to that as well. And one more breath here. Now, when you release from the posture, come back up, and as you do, keep your right leg as it is, but open your left leg to the left and allow the hips also to open slightly. So now I have a 90-degree position between my two thighs. This slight shift changes where in the body we'll feel the next sensation. Coming into Janu Shirshasana. Allow yourself to turn in the direction of your right knee, and the head now will come down toward that right knee. In doing so, we're flexing through the trunk safely, having taken the side movement first. And as such, you're likely to feel Janu Shirshasana more completely in the left low back. And just one more breath here. And when you release from the posture, we'll open this position with a side stretch more specifically. So allow yourself to turn and look back to the left. Right hand can develop along the inside of the right leg. Left arm will reach up and overhead with the left elbow wrapping in. Left shoulder can slide down the back. Over time, you might be able to take the hand to the foot, although that is not necessary. And breathing as you're reaching through, finding the way into the side stretch that's just right for you. And one more breath. Now as you release from the posture, draw your way back and up. And in doing so, we're going to switch to the other side. Initially, just come back into your seated Dandasana, feeling the long neutral spine as you do with the legs outstretched. And this already gives us that sense of what is neutral, so that the back is completely safe as we come into this clean forward bend, stretch of the hamstrings. In Mahamudra, the big prayer posture, it's also called one-legged forward bend, as in Ekapada Paschimottanasana. As you're able from here, maintaining that long neutral spine, we'll hinge at the hips and fold forward. And breathing as you're reaching through. And with the spine neutral, we can find that long, slow, deep breath. And as such, one more here. Now, when you release from the position, draw your way back up through neutral. And let's open this right knee to the right. With it, you can allow the pelvis to also open slightly to the right. So you have a 90-degree position between your two thighs. In doing so, you'll turn back to the left knee. Head comes down towards left knee, as that's the name of the pose. Janu, which is the knee, Shirsasana, so head to knee posture. In doing so, you'll feel the stretch through the right low back, and breathing as you're reaching through. One more breath here. Now, as you release from the posture, let's intensify the side stretch. As we do so, take your left hand to the inside of the left thigh. The right arm can reach up and overhead, wrapping that right elbow in, right shoulder slides down the back. As you gradually deepen the posture to your own ability, still working with that free and deep breath as you do. And one more of them here. And then as you release from the posture, come on back out and back up. You might stretch those legs out forward.
We're going to do two more forward bends. One is the half lotus and then the Paschimottanasana. Let's do the half lotus position. Now, certainly, if half lotus is not in your repertoire, then keep it as we were before. If half lotus is possible, you'll wrap it up in a cross and then fold. Sometimes the lotus position gives you a little advantage in the folding.
And I'm just working with the bind of my left hand back behind me until it catches the left foot the hard way.
And one more breath. Exhale. Reach through the right hamstring. Allow that left knee to be at ease. And release. And then we're going to twist to each side.
No, we're not going to twist.
We'll come out of the forward bend. And we'll do the second side. So again, if the lotus works, go for it. Certainly the lotus is tricky on the knee, so that could be at ease. In fact, you could have a little pillow under the calf for the right knee. But if we're showing with the half lotus, we fold over that left leg, tipping the pelvis back and reaching forward. The forward bends are calming. Couple more breaths. Inhale and exhale, and reach through the hamstring, reach through the low back, reach through the whole back side of the body. One more breath. Inhale and exhale, and reach through the pose. And finish. Come up. You'll release that right leg from the position it's in. And now the double-legged forward bend, Paschimottanasana. Both legs forward. Hands come up to the toes or a strap. And you could bend the toes back a little bit. The knees could have a slight bend in them. Eventually, of course, you're straightening, but more importantly, the back should be lengthened. So to round the back and crank on it in this position is not so good for the low back. So you'd bend the knees a little bit so you can lengthen out, and then slowly the legs would straighten a little bit more and a little bit more. And the back is lengthening the whole while. Another 3 breaths here. Inhale and exhale, and finally, if your low ribs are close to the thighs, you let go a little bit with the head, a little bit, and you see with Ki, it's a lovely forward bend. And one more breath. Inhale and exhale. Hold your elbow just a little further and finish the double-legged forward bend, and we'll move on.
Doing so next, we'll come into Asan and a couple of different variations. In this way, I'll have you bend your right knee and draw your right foot in toward your right hip. Allow yourself to sit down so that that right sit bone is firmly grounded. And if you need to sit on a cushion for that purpose, on both sides, you'd be welcome to it. From here, we start to hinge at the hips and fold forward, and you can use your right elbow to press back on that right knee, still lengthening and lifting through the head and the chest. Over time, that right hand might come back behind you by your right thigh, or you might even be able to bind the right hand to the left and hinging at the hips as we fold forward. And one more breath here. When you release from the position, we'll take it to the second side. In doing so, right leg forward and left knee bending. Left foot's in by the left hip, grounding through both sit bones. Lifting through the head and the chest as you begin to hinge at the hips and fold forward. And doing so with that left elbow pressing back on the left shin. Gradually developing the left hand, maybe back to the left thigh, or even the left hand binding to the right hand. Doing so maintaining the spinal length as you hinge at the hips and fold forward. And one more breath here. And when you release from the position, come on back up and straighten out both legs in your seated Dandasana, and we'll take it into a second variation of this. In this way, depending on how happy your knee was before in your half lotus in your forward bend, you might take your left foot and cross it over your right thigh now. Coming into a half lotus variation of Asan, you can then bend your right knee and draw that right foot in towards the sit bone, and again, hinging at the hips, folding forward. Now, many of us have a challenge with the full movement towards the lotus position on the left side. As such, you could just simply place your left foot on the ground by your right hip, and in either of those variations, for the left knee, allow yourself to fold forward, breathing as you're reaching through. And that's whether your foot is up in a half lotus or down on the ground like it was in Mahamudra. And one more breath. When you release from the posture, come on back up, and we'll play with that one on the second side. Asan number 2. In doing so, bending your left knee and planting your left foot by the left hip. Consider from here taking the right foot to the inner left thigh or crossing it over the top of the left thigh, in whichever of those two variations works best for you. And then once you do start to hinge at the hips and fold forward, left elbow helps to press back that left knee. You might use the left hand on the left hip, and over time that right hand might come back to left foot in this bind. And one more breath here. Then as you release from the posture, you can come on back up, and in doing so, stretch those legs out and feel the effects in your seated Dandasana.
We're going to a widespread leg position next, and we'll show it this way. So it's not as wide as possible. It's about a 90-degree angle here, and there could be a little ease in the knees, and then you're folding forward, and it depends how far you fold forward, of course, the hamstrings, but the pelvis tips back, the ribs reach out, the knees could bend slightly, and Ki and I can go quite forward here. You may not go this far. I like to read books in this position, or an article or two. And so breath by breath, you're finding your way. The inner thighs are stretched out. Your low back stretches out. And a couple more breaths. And one more. Exhale, reach through, opening the inner thighs and the hamstrings. Okay, then we're going to stretch to the inside. So we did before, we did this one. This is similar. And so I'm going left as the voice, and Ki's going right as the model. Leaning out, I'm taking my left arm to the inside. The left lower rib cage scoots into the inside of that left inner thigh. And then a right hand, ideally gets to the foot. You could have a strap in here. My teacher Marie Svoboda used to say, keep the picture between the frame. And so the frame is the arms and the head is the picture. And so you don't want to do this. You want to keep the pose intact as you stretch through. One more breath. Pelvis, lower ribs sort out. We reach back right. In Ki's case, back left. And release. And second side. So I'm going to the inside of my right thigh. Ki's going to the inside of her left thigh. The lower ribs come forward. And then possibly, for me, the left arm comes up and across, maybe on a strap. For Ki, it's the right. And then you're tipping the pelvis, reaching out, and keeping the head and the top arm in some kind of frame. And a couple more breaths. Inhale, exhale. It's really good for the low rib cage area, this stretch. And one more. Keep the neck intact. And finish here, reach through and release. And then just come back to center for a couple breaths. And then one more. And release.
Now from bound angle and this way with the legs outstretched, you're having a stretch through the inner thighs as they approach both the inner groin and inner knees. And the next position of bound angle, we change that by bending the knees and taking the feet closer together. Still, we want to maintain the neutral spine, so lifting up through the head and the chest, folding forward and breathing as you're reaching through. Now, depending upon the angle at your knees will affect your angle at the hips. So sometimes folks are happier with the feet a little farther away from the hips. In doing so, over time, the head can come right into the foot like a cradle. And one more breath here. Sometimes when we work with the feet farther away, then we might be able to take the feet in a little closer and see if that gives us a little bit more freedom in the hips, working in such a way that you're able to breathe freely and deeply without any harm in the knees or the back or anything. One more breath. And when you release from the posture, come on back up and shake out those legs a little bit. Bob's going to take us into the cow-facing posture.
Cow-facing posture is a meditation position. I'm going to take my right leg under and my left leg over. And so the right foot to the outside of the left buttock, the left foot to the outside of the right buttock, one knee on top of the other. You might want to sit on a block or something to ease the knees out if you're good to go this way. Then there's a couple variations. So here's the meditation position. It's just upright. It's easier to get your low back to lengthen rather than in the cross-legged where we tend to round. So that's a tiny advantage to it. Most people, it's pretty intense for meditation, but we're using it as a stretch. And the one direction is just to fold straight forward depending on your knees. And so the pelvis tips back and the ribs reach out. The stretch should be through the outer buttock. If it's a pinch in the groin, you need to open the quadriceps a little bit, open the hip joint a little bit as you fold forward. If it's a problem in the knee, back out. And one more breath here. Exhale, reach, and come up. Now there's one arm position. It's going to be the opposite elbow under his top leg. And so my left arm, his left arm, ideally you hook. If you don't get the hook, it's not worth it. but the hook gives you a little bit of a binding, and then you can fold forward. It's more challenging, and so you're trying to keep the underneath shoulder at ease as you fold forward. It's a lot going on. Cow face and come up and come out, and then the second side. So flip-flop the legs, your left under and right over in the second side in our case. And then you just make sure everything's well enough with the knees, and so adjust, and then start to hinge at the hip joints. And breath by breath, you're lowering a little bit. Don't take the head down, keep the head back a little. And a couple more. It's possible that this feels really good. And one more. Reach. And then come out. And we'll take the arm connection, left hand under, right hand over. And then you hinge, so the arm is like an ear of the cow, and here's the lips of the cow down here. I know it's difficult to see a cow here, but it's in the pose. Sacred cow in India, the Goa, the light. Cow stands for the light of consciousness. And lean into it. And one more breath. Reach. And then let's come out. And undo your legs.
You just stretch those legs out forward. In this way, we'll shift into a couple more positions that are really targeting the outer hips, similarly to the cow-facing posture. Next, we'll come into what we like to call steer-facing pose. In this way, I'm going to turn sideways so that you're already familiar with cow-facing, and I want to show you the contrast between the two. Starting as Bob did with the right leg under and the left leg over. In cow-facing, Bob had the heels in by the hips, which is absolutely accurate. From here, you're able to see about shifting your feet forward so that from one foot to the other is a straight line through the knees. And this changes the angle of this experience in your outer hips. As such, we'll hinge at the hips and fold forward, maintaining the neutral spine, still making sure that the knees are finding this acceptable. And if you wanted to deepen into it, you could again take that bind behind your back, right hand under, and left arm over, and hinging at the hips as you're folding forward. And one more breath here. Now as you release from the posture, we'll come on back up through center. And a fun way that you could turn to the other side would be to take your two hands toward your top foot, which is your left foot, and turning in that direction. Keep turning, and that'll result in the opposite leg being on top. In doing so, initially in cow-facing position, those 2 feet are in close to the hips, but here in steer, our legs, instead of being the lips of the cow, are now the horns of the steer. As such, with the feet to the sides of the knees, hinge at the hips and fold forward, long and neutral through the spine, making sure that the knees are finding this stretch in the outer buttock acceptable. And one more breath here. Changing into the arm variation with the deeper stretch through the shoulders. Left hand can come behind you and right arm's over, with the fingers clasping. Hinge at the hips as you fold forward. So making sure that the knees are finding this acceptable. And one more breath. Now as you release from the posture, we have a third variation in the sequence, in which we'll now shift the angle of the legs into what is Sukhasan. If you stay on that same side with right leg on top, left foot will come underneath, and the feet are underneath the knees. In doing so, we'll hinge the hips and fold forward. This changes the sensation in the tight outer hips, and in doing so, some experience this as the fire log pose. When it's easy for us, then it makes sense that it's called the easy posture. Sukhasan, one more breath. Now as you release from the posture, that was with your right leg on top. Shake your legs out, and we're going to take it to the other side now with your right leg under, left leg over. The tendency here is great for the feet to come in closer to the hips, as that diminishes the stretch in the outer buttock. So to the best of your ability, keep the feet visible beyond the line of the knees, and in doing so, hinging at the hips as you fold forward. Still neutral through the spine as you're growing through to the crown of the head. And one more breath here. Now when you release from the position, you'll come on back up and stretching out through the legs. All of this has set us up well for our seated pranayama, focusing and opening the inner and outer hips as well as hamstrings and strengthening through the back.
We're going to do a breath we haven't done in our series yet. It's Anuloma Viloma Pranayama, alternate nostril breathing. We'll just do it 3 times to each nostril, and then we'll close the routine with a couple of Ujjayi breaths.
Make sure as you begin that your hips and knees are in the same horizontal plane and the spinal length is maintained, so that as we're focusing on the instruction that Bob's about to give, we're not having discomfort in the back or the knees. If you need to sit on a cushion, you're always welcome to that.
You could use either hand. The first 2 fingers are coming to the base of the thumb. Generally, we use our dominant hand. I'm going to use my non-dominant hand. So index and middle finger come to the base of the thumb. You're going to bring your hand up, cover, exhale both nostrils. So the ring finger covers the right nostril, or if you're using the thumb, the right hand is the other. The thumb covers the right nostril. Exhale both. Now cover right nostril, inhale left, 8 seconds. Hold for 8. The hand could come down just below the chin, lengthen the spine. Energy's going from the left channel up the spine now. Then cover the left. I'm using my thumb. You might have your ring finger if you're using your right. Exhale right. About 8. Inhale right. Hold, center. We'll start to retain just a little longer, towards 12 seconds. Right channel energy goes up the spine. Now cover the right. Exhale left. Exhale as long and slow as you can. Inhale left. Hold approximately 12. Find the central channel, the Sushumna channel. The chakras are within that. Energy up the Sushumna channel, up the chakra system. Cover left. Exhale right. Clear the right channel. That's called the Pingala, the sun channel. Inhale right up the right channel. Hold, you shift the energy to the central channel, the Sushumna channel. Energy goes up through the chakras, waking them up. And one more time to each side. Cover right, exhale left. Inhale left. Hold, energy goes up the chakras. They light up like Christmas tree lights. Up, 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 opening. And then cover left, exhale right. Last one, inhale right. Hold and take the hand down, but center the energy still up the spine with the energy through the Sushumna, through the chakras. Now exhale both. And the couple through both nostrils, in and out. Inhale both. Pause a moment. Exhale both. And last of these, inhale. Pause a moment and exhale, and we'll finish the routine with this. Namaste.
Namaste.